Today, I'm building this Paragon Heating Kit, part of the discontinued line of Modular Building Series from Walthers Cornerstone. I think it's a shame that these were discontinued. They're great for quickly creating unique structures without the complexity that can be involved in scratch building. Woodland Scenic's DPM brand does have their own modular line still in production, which I'll feature as a comparison in a future video. So, getting into the box, you'll notice no large preformed walls here. Instead, what you'll see is numerous smaller sections that can be used to form each larger wall panel. This allows windows and solid walls to be placed in your own desired location. Here's some nice looking decals. You'll see there's also some other business ideas as opposed to just Paragon Heating. No step-by-step instructions with these modular kits, just an exploded view that you can reference whilst building. You may also notice two options here for the fascia. One option offering a peaked roof and the other for a flat roof. After each wall section is cut from the sprue, it will need some cleanup. I use an X-Acto knife and sanding sticks to get this done. With that finished, the walls can be positioned into shape. For this build, it's simply 4 small rectangles, making a larger rectangle. For attaching the walls at their vertical edge, these pilaster pieces are used. The lugs on the rear of the pilaster help to keep everything aligned while cementing it in place. when fixing the horizontal surfaces together, again, you're ready by more alignment lugs. These modulars really make it easy for you. Just pay attention to which wall sections you're using, as I wasn't supposed to use all window pieces here. Lucky for me, the plastic wasn't fully bonded when I noticed my mistake, and I was able to switch out some of the wall segments. This is what the wall was supposed to look like that I just built. Here I'm using one of the included window blanking pieces. This will give the appearance that one of the windows has been bricked up at some point over the building's lifetime. I completed the other side and the rear wall off camera. Now for bringing all these walls together, more pillars to pieces are used. This time they're specific corner pieces. And again, they're lugged for easy alignment. You can use this included base piece when fixing the walls together. However, I chose not to use the base. Instead, I opted for machinist blocks to help keep things in place whilst I cemented them together. With those three walls together, we can move on to the fourth. Here there's a few decisions to be made. Whether you'd like the door to be centered or offset, and also choosing between the flat or the peaked roof. I'm going with the offset door and a flat roof. Make sure to use the correct piece here is important. This has the ledge that the roof sits upon, so you'll need the part that corresponds to the type of roof that you're using. The sides of the front wall have this beveled edge, and as a result, they don't fit straight to the side walls, nor do they use the corner pilasters we used earlier. So here, we have to use this special adapter segment. The final part of constructing the walls is to add cornices. If you're doing the peaked roof, the cornice on the rear of the wall is going to differ slightly. Cornices in place, we can go around and add these pilaster tops, just to tie everything together. I give the whole thing a satin brick base coat, with the exception of the fascia. This got a coat of Tamiya XF8 flat blue. Now there's several ways to weather a building. There's also several ways to add mortar lines. This time I was using a leftover paint that I had already thinned for airbrushing. I believe it was a stone grey from Vallejo's model color line, but it may also have been just something that I mixed up for another project. I start with just coating the entire wall with a layer of the thin paint. Make sure that it gets down into those cracks between the brick. Before the paint has time to dry too much, using a paper towel, I rub away the paint from the surface of the brick. This should leave behind most of the paint that's in the crevices, giving that mortar line effect. A thin layer of paint will also remain on the brick, which gives some variation to the uniform red that that you can still see on those end walls. And here's how it looks once all sides get that same treatment. Window installation came next. I've given these a coat of primer, followed by what I believe was US Army green. If you're familiar with building plastic kits, you'll know that cement and paint don't go well when trying to bond parts together. So in instances like this, you want to remove some of the paint on the bonding surfaces before you try to fix them in place with cement. You could install the included glazing here, but I usually leave my industrial buildings unglazed, at least for this style of window. There's a small awning over the entryway, and then I add the main door. As with many kits glazing, care needs to be taken when cutting the parts away from the sprue, as they can be prone to cracking. I don't know what the best approach would be for these windows. I've only ever seen them on these modular kits. So my take has been to mask off the front side, and then give them a few coats of black paint on the rear. Certainly not the greatest looking window, so if you have any suggestions for how I can better tackle this type of window, go ahead and let me know in the comment section of this video. There are two doors on the rear of the building. I wanted a more modern approach to the larger entrance, so I used some corrugated wool from scrap parts to create this garage style door, which I painted a metallic silver. I gave the interior of the cornice pieces a coat of paint similar to the color of the rest of the brick. The roof was sprayed black, but I wanted to add more variation. I created several shades of grey by adding white paint to black. Using a sponge, I then dabbed the paint onto the roof. This adds both randomness to the colour and also gives a nice textured appearance. A thin brush and a steady hand helped in applying this stone grey paint atop the capstones. I gave the entire thing a matte clear coat, with the exception of the blue fascia. It instead received a gloss coat. I created the signage next. These decals are probably 20 years old. Despite using both microset and microsol, I had a lot of trouble dealing with them. So the end result wasn't the best. For another touch of weathering, I used black paint, thinned with water, to apply some runoff stains to each window ledge. Now if you've watched any of my previous builds of late, you'll know I've been using some 3D printed parts to amp up the detail. So here I'm adding these AC units and this ductwork. I'll also leave a link in the description to the store that I like to get my 3D prints from. With that, I'm going to call this one done. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts on these modular type kits are. And as always, thanks for watching.